Hatched in the swampy area of Hjalmarch, growing up for this Argonian took its toll. His mother was long ago exiled from the homeland for reasons she would not say, and Skyrim was as good a place as any to nurture her unhatched egg. He knew he was different besides the wings he was born with. He felt as if he were different for a reason. His mother died while he was very young, but while alive she cared for him a great deal and said his deformities didn't matter to her. She often told him stories of a place far beyond Nirn, even beyond Oblivion, a place she called Krynn, where great wars were fought amongst mortals and gods alike, and where, she claimed, lived a race much like their own, reptilian in nature, but highly intelligent, and, like her son, were winged and very powerful. Whether there was any truth to these tales, or whether they were only fairy stories told by a loving mother to an outcast son, really doesn't matter, but they would forever be remembered. There were a few times he tried to bond with others of his kind, but because of his physical deformities, as well as not having a connection to the Hist, his Argonian brethren had obvious disdain for him. He was treated like an abomination, shunned and ridiculed. Being young, he still had notions of love and bonding, but eventually, those were overcome with hatred, distrust, and bitterness. He once cut off his wings out of rage from being so different, but they only grew back after much agony. Even the humans he encountered considered him a freak, so, as such, he felt like one. Hatred filled him the older he became, to the point where he only cared of himself. Some would say he was born of Oblivion itself, a Daedra spawn. But, if anything, he was only fueled by it. He utilized the fear and hate of others, and life itself did not matter. He had no problem killing anyone or anything to get what he wanted. It was almost as if he was born to destroy. And over the years, he came to enjoy the chaos and destruction he would cause. He had grown tired of all the rejection and mockery that came with trying to fit in, or find a home for himself. So one day he decided that the world would be his. Wherever he went would be his home, and anyone that stood in his way would be cut down. One day he began to feel strange, as if there was some kind of power surging through him. In the following weeks, his wings, as well as his horns, began to grow ever larger. The stories his mother told him came back to him then. He never cared to look into it, but the changes were filling him with questions that he wanted answered. But who would have knowledge of such things? He had an assortment of books that he had plundered from traveling merchants, along with gold and the necessities he needed. But none of that provided a lot of information about what he wanted to know. These questions seemed to be driving him insane. Most likely literally, but who could say for certain? It wasn't long after this he began to feel a calling. Something akin to the connection with the Hist that others of his kind had described to him, only this was something much different. He felt drawn to the southern reaches of Skyrim, and his dreams were filled with a massive black-winged shadow, a single word repeating in his fevered brain over and over again. Dova. The dreams fueled him with a rage and ambition even he had not known before, a drive to wipe both men and Myr from the face of the world. His world. He had fallen in with a group of bandits along his travels, and though he cared nothing for any of them, they cared not for his unique traits, only that he was useful in the slaughter of any who would stand against them. Woe it would be to them in time. One night, as the camp was at rest, not far from the Helgen township, the dreams returned full force, and with them a new word flooded his mind. Yol. He awoke to find the entire camp in flames, his bandit brethren nothing but singed corpses, and those who were not were shredded by tooth and claw. He tasted the blood in his mouth, felt it on his claws, and even more, he felt the flames in his lungs. It was intoxicating. And now, outside of the dream, he felt the call greater than ever. He followed, forever leaving behind him what he was, dwindling cinders in the camp at his back. He was something greater than even he had realized, and he would show them. He would show them all. The Draconian is evil to the core, though he himself would never see it this way. To him, the world is a cancer waiting to be burned away. Approach every conversation with self-righteousness, aggression, and anger. With this attitude and no regard for life, it should come as no surprise that you will join the ranks of the Dark Brotherhood. You are also free to join the Companions, purely for profit of course. But remember, the Draconian cares nothing for the Shield Brothers, and will not become a member of the Inner Circle, and thus a werewolf. In regards to the Dawnguard questline, you're free to side with either faction, seeing each only as a potential tool, and the other as an obstacle. If you choose to get involved in the Civil War, the Draconian will side with the Imperials, seeing the Thalmor as potentially very useful pawns in his plans to conquer and burn all of Nirn. The Draconian will pursue the Dragonborn questline aggressively as well, enraged at the very idea that a mere man would dare claim himself Dragonborn. As such, he will feel obligated to seek out Miraak and crush him. Most importantly, ironically enough, will be the primary questline to defeat Alduin, though the justification is far from what it seems. As he learns more and more about himself as a Dragonborn and the history of dragons, his fractured psyche will assimilate the truths of the world to suit his own needs. As such, he comes to view Alduin as a traitor to his purpose. In the Draconian's eyes, Alduin's failure to end the world, and thus end the current Culpa, is an affront to the very fabric of that which is the Dove. He sees himself as Alduin's successor, destined to achieve what Alduin failed to. He will dash Alduin against the stones, and thus fulfill his true purpose as the Devourer of Worlds. Much like the approach you will take to roleplay, combat too will be an aggressive affair. Prior to initiating combat, the Draconian will use Flame Cloak, then bombard his prey with fireballs and flame breath. After the initial barrage, you will quickly close the distance and finish off enemies in melee combat. You will make frequent use of block when in melee range for the obvious reasons, but you will use it as well as a form of healing, thanks to the healing effect of the Blade of Rebirth. When you really want to bring out the big guns, you will use Call Dragon for additional firepower, Dragon Aspect to greatly increase your overall effectiveness, and when outdoors you will also have access to the devastating Meteor Shower Shout. Be cautious when using this, however, as it will deal damage to everything and everyone within a large radius of you. The Draconian is best used without a follower, due in large part to this shout, as a single use of it can leave your followers either dead in the gutter or irreversibly aggressive towards the player after taking massive damage from it. As an Argonian, you will receive +10 to lockpicking and +5 to light armor, alteration, pickpocket, restoration, and sneak, none of which is any true benefit to this build. However, what is beneficial is the racial power Hist skin, increasing your health regeneration by 10 times normal speed for 60 seconds once per day. As well, you will also receive a 50% resistance to all diseases and the ability to breathe underwater. For your Guardian Stone, in early game you will take the Mage, the Warrior, or the Lover for the sake of leveling your skills faster, but in the end game you will take the Lord Stone, increasing damage resistance by 50 points and increasing magic resistance by 25%. Your stat spread will be 50% health, 30% stamina, and 20% magicka. Primary skills will be one-handed, destruction, and heavy armor, with block, smithing, enchanting as secondary skills. For gear you will use the Blade of Rebirth, Mage's Circlet, Amulet of Talos, Heavy Falmer Armor, Heavy Falmer Gauntlets, Heavy Falmer Boots, and any self-enchanted ring. You will want to hold off on obtaining the Mage's Circlet until you have reached at least level 25 in order to obtain the highest tiered and thus most beneficial version of the item. Key enchantments for the Draconian will be as follows: Fortify One-Handed, Fortify Destruction and Magicka Regen, Fortify Heavy Armor, and Fortify Stamina Regen. Your favorited spells will be Firestorm, Fireball, Flame Cloak, and if you prefer, Fireball can be switched out for Incinerate. Your favorited powers will be Hiss Skin and Secret of Arcana. Your favorited shouts will be Dragon Rend, Dragon Aspect, Call Dragon, Meteor Storm, and, most importantly, Fire Breath. For the Black Books you will take the following abilities: Dragonborn Flame, Secret of Arcana, and Seeker of Might. Be sure to meditate on the Word of Power Yol with Parthenax in order to obtain the effect The Fire Within, which will increase the damage done by Fire Breath by 25%, making this already devastating attack even more deadly. For details on obtaining the Meteor Shower Shout, be sure to stick around for the mods section of the video. For perks, you will take the following. In one-handed, you will take 5 points in Armsman, increasing one-handed weapon damage by 100%. Fighting Stance, reducing the stamina cost of power attacks by 20%. And Savage Strike, increasing the damage of one-handed standing power attacks by 25% with a chance to decapitate enemies. In block, you will take 5 points of Shield Wall, making your block 40% more effective, and Quick Reflexes, causing time to slow when blocking an enemy's power attack. In heavy armor, you will take 5 points of Juggernaut, increasing the armor rating for heavy armor by 100%. Well Fitted, giving you an additional 25% to armor rating when wearing all heavy armor. Tower of Strength, reducing staggering by 50% when wearing all heavy armor. Matching Set, giving you another 25% increase to armor rating when wearing a matching set of heavy armor. And Reflect Blows, giving you a 10% chance to reflect damage received by enemies when wearing all heavy armor. In smithing, you will take Steel Smithing, Elven Smithing, and Advanced Armors, allowing you to craft the appropriate gear and improve it twice as much. You will also take Arcane Blacksmith, allowing you to upgrade enchanted equipment. In Destruction, you will take Novice, Apprentice, Adept, Expert, and Master Destruction, reducing the cost of associated spells by 50%. Destruction Dual Casting, allowing you to overcharge spells, casting stronger versions of them using both hands. Impact, allowing most dual cast spells to stagger opponents. 2 points of Augmented Flames, making flame spells deal 50% more damage. And Intense Flames, causing enemies to flee when struck by flame spells while their health is low. In Enchanting, you will take 5 points in Enchanter, making enchantments 100% stronger. Insightful Enchanter, making skill enchantments on armor 25% stronger. Corpus Enchanter, making health, stamina, and magicka enchantments on armor 25% stronger. And Extra Effect, allowing you to place 2 enchantments on any single piece of gear. And finally, in Restoration, you will take Novice Restoration, reducing the cost of associated spells by 50%, and Regeneration, increasing the effect of healing spells by 50%. While you won't actually use restoration spells, taking these perks will increase the amount of healing done by the Blade of Rebirth's effect, and with the skill requirement of only 20, this means it will take no real investment to acquire, aside from the perk points. Mods play a key role in this build, so it's high time we cover them. Before we get started, I do want to point out that a couple of the mods on this list will tip the scales in your favor a good bit. As such, this build is meant to be played on expert or higher difficulty, so stay away from adept. Unless you want to feel OP. If that's your thing, do your thing, girl. First off, you will need the Blade of Rebirth, adding said sword into the game along with a spell book that when used gives the sword a unique enchantment that applies healing while blocking with it. Next, you will need no helmets required. This mod removes the need for helmets as part of an entire set for armor perks such as Well Fitted. You will also need 2 shout mods, Immersive Fire and Frost Shouts, which changes Ice Breath and Fire Breath into the versions used by the dragons, making them much stronger, and Alduin's Meteor Shower Shout, which, as its name suggests, makes the Meteor Shower Shout available to the player. To obtain the shout, simply learn 2 words of both the Storm Call and Fire Breath shouts. These 2 mods are the primary reason I suggest playing this build on higher difficulties. And finally, a purely cosmetic mod, Animated Dragon Wings scaled 150%. While the normal ones are fine, I suggest the larger version of the mod simply because it avoids some clipping with your armor, and they just look better, in my opinion. A couple of mods that I would recommend, but aren't required for the build, are the Power of the Dragonborn Dragon Souls, and the Fire Within Shouts powered by Dragon Souls, which increases stats and shouts respectively according to how many unused Dragon Souls you have in your possession. And that, dear viewers, is the Draconian. Special thanks to Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, New York Times best-selling authors of the Dragonlance book series, which inspired this build. If you're not familiar with their work, you owe it to yourself to remedy that situation. You also owe it to yourself to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and comment down below to let us know what you think. While you're at it, be sure to subscribe to MasterQuest Gaming for more Skyrim build videos just like this, and so much more content by people who love video games just like you. And be sure to check out our monthly channel updates for a chance to vote on upcoming builds. I'm ShadowLord0 for MasterQuest Gaming. Thank you guys so much for watching, and happy questing, everybody.